first, let's go back to the beginning. Can you remember when you first saw AJ on TV, watching him, when you first sort of became aware of him?
Well, I think the first time I was aware of him was when I came to London. I had one of my fighters fighting at the O2 Arena, and I believe it was Anthony's 9th professional fight. I had heard of him because of the gold medal and everything, but I had never met him or never seen him live. And the moment I seen him walk into the weigh-ins, I asked, who's that boy? He looks special. His smile, his looks, everything looked special. And then when I seen him fight, obviously, I thought, this kid's gonna be something special. So, the rest was history. We talked, it was mostly a pretty long talk, not just with Anthony, but everybody else, what they thought went wrong, what he needed, and we went through the same, and Anthony himself told me what he wanted from a new trainer, what he wanted to do, what he wanted to do when he came back with for the rematch, and it was pretty much what I thought he needed to do. I met Angel Fernandez there and the rest of the team, and Angel Fernandez, we exchanged phones, and we were talking back and forth, and I was on the same page. Both of us always thought, we need to be a little more aggressive, but we're not trying to make him be a brawler, obviously, because that's not his style. He's got very good, he's a very technical fighter too. So, just little things, just add a little more things. He's already a great fighter, he's got skills, one of the best heavyweights in the world. He just needs to be a little more aggressive, with a lot of head movement, using that jab, and that's what we've been working on.
You mentioned Angel Fernandez there. What does he bring? What is the main sort of skill that he offers to this team?
You know what, Angel's young. He's young and he's hungry to become the best, and that's very important in a trainer. When you have you could have the best trainer in Mexico right now, if you want to say, maybe Nacho Berenstein, that has a lot of knowledge, but he's already in his 80s, and they don't have the hunger anymore. I don't see it like that. Freddie Roach, who has accomplished so much, but at the point of their career, they might already be tired of the sport. They might not want to work as hard, and there's many more like that. Angel's very young. Angel wants to be the best. He's got a solid team of good fighters, and he's doing a great job. So the main thing is we were both on the same page. We both agreed to what we needed to work on, and that hasn't changed. Every day in the gym, we've been working together, and things have been working out pretty good.
You touched a little bit on making AJ a little bit more aggressive in this fight. Back home in the UK, the overriding feeling from the fans was that he needed to get back to the old AJ and maybe not try to box Usyk as much as he did in the first fight.
You know what? What I think with AJ is, like I said, he's got great skills. I think a lot of it also has to do with his mentality. After 2 losses, there's a lot of things change. A lot of things change. Believe in his own team, his own trainer. The what he hears around boxing, from boxing people, from fans. A lot of it negative stuff. So all that affects you and the way you think. So I think that change had to be completely to a point where somebody in front of him, in the gym every day, is talking nothing but positive things, things that need to happen in the fight, things that need to change when it comes to being not only the more aggressive fighter, looking for those hard punches, knockout punches, but also in his mind, thinking positive, because a lot of negative things do affect, when you're reading everything negative, when you hear nothing but negative things, well, it has to affect an athlete.
AJ obviously accomplished so much in boxing. He's a massive celebrity. How is he as a student? Is he still a good student to have?
You know what? One thing that surprised me about him is every time we sat down to watch the sparring sessions, he was always taking notes, and you don't see that from fighters. They hear you, and they understand what you need to do, and then they keep that in their mind. But Anthony wrote notes all the time, and that's something different. That's something that tells me how much he wants to keep that, and I'm pretty sure he went through it every day, just to remind himself what we were asking him to do. He wrote everything down. So a lot of times they hear them, what do we want them to do, but they, next day in sparring they might remember one thing. He kept everything written down. So that was something that gave me a little bit of motivation, knowing that how much he wants it back. And he listens. There was a few times where he complains, but that's one thing we told him since the beginning. Look, there's gonna be times where you're gonna hate us because we're gonna push you. And there was days though that you guys are asking too much, or he wouldn't tell us, but he would tell somebody else, man, I think they're pushing me too hard. I think they're asking for too much. Well, I told him, after the fight, you're gonna thank us because that's our job.
That sort of note-taking, being conscientious, does he remind you of any of your previous fighters in that? Is there anyone in particular who
Not really, because nobody's done that to a point where they take notes, but in the way of thinking, a lot with Mikey, my brother. Mikey was one of those fighters also that was very, very smart in the ring, but also when we sat to watch fights or videos, he always paid very close attention, and then come the day of the sparring or the fight, he would do what we were telling him to do. There's other fighters, I've had so many fighters there's other fighters that just won't listen. They just have the different mentality, and I'm just gonna go out in there to kick somebody's ass, and that's their mentality, and they will do it because that's just in their heart. But Mikey's one of those very similar to that, thinks a lot, very, very, very smart in the ring, thinks of every punch he's throwing, very accurate, and I think Anthony's similar.
Talk to us a little bit about the psychology going into a fight like this. Very few men have taken an immediate rematch for the heavyweight title. AJ is obviously one of those who has, and he won it.
Well, you know what? They already went through 12 rounds, and from what I understand and what everybody in camp told me, is that the camp didn't go very well for the first fight. The camp was just not good at all. There's some that have told me that it was probably one of his worst training camps, and even there, he still, went through 12 rounds, won maybe 4-5 rounds on one judge scorecard. So it was still a fight where he still won some rounds, and that could have been Usyk's best performance ever. Fighting for a heavyweight title, must have been the biggest fight of his career. So he was in the best shape of his life, best preparation of his life. And Anthony's, from what I hear, from everybody in camp, that was one of his worst. So that tells me the reason Anthony wanted the rematch right away. He could have easily went another direction, maybe take a couple fights before that, get his mentality, his spirit, his back in the winning circle, but he decided to go straight into it. That says a lot, from a fighter. Very few would do that, especially when all you hear is he's got no chance. Usyk's gonna outbox him. This time he might even stop him. Because that's all we're hearing, from a lot of boxing people. So that's a sign that he wants it bad. He's not going in there just to go in there and take another beating. He wants it back.
When you say the previous camp didn't go well, was there anything in particular that AJ wanted to change from that camp to this one?
A big percentage of what he needs is that positive person pushing him to be better. Not a person that's always going to be clapping at everything he does. No, we never. I wasn't really too much telling him about the good things he was doing. I wanted to correct a lot of things, and that's another thing that guys around boxing around the gym told me, well, he doesn't hear too much from positive things. Well, I saved that at the end. This week has been nothing but positive things. His mind is set, his mind is right. But during training camp, I was pushing for the things that he wasn't doing, that I wanted him to do. Jab, we already know he has a good jab. We already know he has to be using his jab. So we would push him to throw the jab, but I wasn't clapping every time he landed a jab, because he already has to land that jab often. You know, there was other things, body punches, you know, being aggressive, cutting the ring, head movement. Those are the things that we wanted him to improve. And I think he did a great job in camp. I think we did the same, you know, from what you know, like I said, I wasn't there for the first camp, but what I hear from everybody is that it was a great training camp compared to the first one.
AJ is obviously only one half of this story. From what I understand, Usyk spent some time in your gym a few years ago. How closely did the two of you work together?
No, you know what? We were never very close. You know, he would train. He trained in my gym for a while. You know, when I was in Oxnard, and I was training a lot of Klima's fighters. You know, we had a couple champions together and everything. But when Usyk was there, he always came with his team. I wasn't training him. He came with his team. So I have two sessions in my gym, you know, we're downstairs or upstairs. So upstairs, I always kept it private for somebody like Usyk or Lomachenko. Lomachenko trained in my camp also for many years. So they would do their training camps private in the second level, where nobody in my camp, none of my assistants, none of my fighters would go up there. You know, I would let them have it on their own. You know, yeah, there was moments where I go up and watch training because, you know, it's my gym, and, you know, it was fun watching them because of their skills. They're just very talented. You know, I enjoy watching their footwork and stuff like that, and maybe learn some, you know, some of it out of them. But you know, he was just a great person with everybody. But I was never involved, you know, to a point where we became friends. Never, you know. Igis Klimas, it's a different story. You know, we traveled together a lot. You know, we celebrated a lot of wins, championship fights together. But with Usyk, I seen him train a few times. You know, and I had cameras in my gym back then. So you know, I seen a lot of his sparring sessions. But you know, never became friends with him.
From what you did see in those few sessions that you did watch him, could you see what he was going to become, or has he just become a completely different animal now?
Well, watching his skills, you know, you could see a bright future. You could see he's, you know, very talented. You know, didn't turn pro at 18. He was already in his mid-20s turning pro. So he was already a solid man. So it didn't take many years. It didn't take many fights for him to be up there against the best in the world. You could see their skills, you know, and he's very skilled, you know, very talented, a lot of confidence in themselves. So, you know, you could see the future. You know, he was going to be a great champion.
It looked for a long time like the winner of this fight would go on to face Tyson Fury for the undisputed title. Do you still see that happening, or do you believe him that he's actually retired now?
Well, I don't know the reasons why he's announcing his retirement. I don't know if it's personal problems. I really don't know. I really don't believe it either. I think, you know, the winner fighting Tyson Fury is going to be the biggest fight in you know, one of the biggest in heavyweight fights in history, maybe the biggest in the UK. Especially if it's Anthony Joshua. So I don't see him retiring. I think, you know, a lot of fighters sometimes announce their retirements maybe for personal reasons, but a fight that big, I think he'll come out of retirement. It's just one of those fights that he can't let go, you know, and I think the world would really push him, promoters would push him to come back and do it, because it's just a huge fight.
One other name that's been thrown around in the last few weeks especially is Deontay Wilder, and that fight with AJ never happened a few years ago. Do you like that fight? Do you think it's one that, you know, you would like to see AJ take?
You know what? It's a very dangerous fight. I got to be honest. You know, Deontay Wilder has that power, man. He lands one punch and he finishes. But, you know, the way I see Anthony now, you know, with his movement, his footwork, he's been doing really good footwork, a lot of head movement. I think Anthony has the skills, you know, because Deontay Wilder is not very skillful. He's just very powerful. He's one of those fighters that looks for that right hand. That's all he's got, you know. But he's got 10, 12 rounds to land it, and he will land it. But if a fighter fights smart, in this case Anthony fights smart against him and uses his footwork at angles, because you can't stand in front of him. If you use, you know, left, right, you know, always in motion, I think Anthony could beat him.